I've always been fascinated with this effect. Like, there's just something mystical about the idea that you're so incredibly powerful that your presence itself lingers in the air for at least a second after you leave it. There's just something about that that's inherently cool to me. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Team Pizza Plays Castlevania Harmony of Dissonance. I, of course, am Whatthefnu.
And I am running out of bad jokes to introduce myself with.
The same thing happened to me way back in the day when I started doing things like, I think one of my earliest projects was I was joining in on the verses of Super Mario Galaxy that, I mean, he goes by Tyler Cedarwall now. Back then he was attacking Toucans and Josh Jepson. That was also back when they did open calls for people to join their Versus projects, but then they realized, okay, we're flooding YouTube with way too many Let's Plays of the same game. Maybe don't do that anymore? Oh, hey. Aw, what a cute little thing. Aw, do you want to be a boss, little buddy? Oh! Not so little after all, it looks like.
Oh, it wants to be a boss fight!
There goes his weapons, however... Oh. Interesting, okay. I'm starting to see how this works. Little do you know, though, I can take advantage of invincibility, too.
Ha 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 ha! Ow. Huh.
Dang.
What a dick.
I've actually got to take advantage of that if I'm in the wrong position. Alright. You lost your sword and you lost your head. What else you got? Uh-oh.
Hey, that's like the finishing move from the cheap-ass boss at the end of MKX.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
That thing even looks kind of like that boss. Wonder where they got the inspiration from. And yet, I don't feel bad about it at all, because fuck Konami.
Yeah. I mean, the guys who worked on this game were doing alright. It's one of those things like, fuck Konami, but praise the people who actually made their products what they were. You know?
Yes. All glory to the developers.
A sylph feather. Gee, I wonder what this does.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
While in midair, you may perform an additional jump.
Aha.
Celebrate good times. Holy crap, I can actually visit some of those locations I've been skipping over now.
That's the other thing, too. You have 40% of the map, but it's a lot of you happen to be in the room and just barely clipped it to get it on your thing.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, like, I just put those... I've played enough of these Metroidvania games. I know some people don't exactly like that term, but that's kind of what they are. That's the identifier most people know.
Not to... I mean, this is one of the... This is half of what that name is coming from.
I know. Some people don't like it because it ties Castlevania to something else. And a mindset behind it is, well, Castlevania is good in its own right. It doesn't need to be tied to anything else to be considered good. Which I get where they're coming from, but at the same time...
Here's the thing, though. If you really want to scrape things with it, then it should just be called a Metroid-style game. Because guess what? Castlevania 1... was just run forward, hit things with whip, rinse, repeat. Not really a lot of exploration going on there.
And that's why you need the identifiers, because you need to separate classic Castlevania from later Castlevania, considering a lot of people talk about them in much different contexts.
Yeah, and meanwhile, the first Metroid game was this whole explore, get power-ups, explore some more thing. So... calling it a Metroidvania is actually giving Castlevania some props for their way they managed to use the system well enough to be worthy of claiming half that title. You know?
Hmm.
Metroid, I'm pretty sure, was the first one to do it, but Castlevania helped do new things with it to such a degree that any game that tries to be the same style is called a Metroidvania, not just a Metroid clone.
Hmm.
I actually think it's kind of an honor to Castlevania and speaks volumes for the power of the games.
Anyways, what was I talking about before that?
I have no idea. Yay, I killed the conversation!
No, I killed the conversation. It's just like, well, I'm trying to cover all my bases, but when I come right down to it, it's like I spent so much time on that explanation that I completely forgot the joke I was going for.
Yay! Killed a joke. Killing joke. That's gonna be a movie with Mark Hamill and Kevin Conroy, and I'm super hyped because the theater near me is showing it.
Cool. The nearest theater to me that's showing it is in Los Angeles. So have fun with that.
Well, maybe. It's not a guarantee that I will have seen it by the time this comes out, let's be honest.
Mm.
I doubt this video will be posted before that happens, because if you do post this before that happens, you're wasting valuable reserves.
Mm.
And I accidentally dated the video. I try not to do that. Whoopsies!
You know what I like about this game so far? Every time you level up, you get a very tangible feeling of power progression. Like, just one level up and I was going from 3 hits on the Axe Knights to 2. And in this game, too, it just... Going back through this area again after everything I've done, I just feel like Juste, or Just, or however you pronounce his name, is much stronger than he was going in the first time.
I really feel like it's supposed to be just because, you know, he's a just warrior.
Justice, yeah. Could be, but
Justice!
then again... You never know with video game pronunciations without voiceovers, though, isn't it? That's another thing. That's another reason I feel like a lot of games should have voiceovers, is it helps you a lot with that kind of thing. Like, you don't feel like an idiot when you're talking to someone else and be like, oh, that's Ganondorf. It's like, wait a second, have I been pronouncing it wrong the whole time?
Well, you see, I prefer it without, because and going back to, I like reading I actually was enjoying the One Piece manga up until I saw the first translation.
Okay, that's for kids. You can't hold the anime responsible for that.
But I always thought it was Luffy, and I kind of like that pronunciation better. But they're saying Luffy is the official. That's how you have to say it, which is like, without voice acting, you can just pronounce it whatever sounds better to you. You know?
One of those interpretation versus artistic direction type things.
Yeah. You know, and it's one of those, the same name can be, even just in normal life, a name can be pronounced multiple ways in the same spelling. So it's not like just, you know, the person who has the name ultimately decides how you pronounce it, but the collection of letters doesn't actually mean that's what it's pronounced as.
It's, oh, shoot.
Like, for instance, you could be Fnu.
Huh.
Like they said on, Screw Attack?
I'm actually working on a video about that, like, people who have pronounced my name in different ways. I'm not gonna lie, that's one of my guilty pleasures on Twitch. Sometimes I'll drop $5 in somebody's chat, just so I can see how they pronounce my username live on air. Pcole444444 is still one of my favorites. What the... Fni? What the Fni?
But yeah, so it's one of those things I prefer, and sometimes a character's voice.
Here's the thing, though.
Does not sound like. With a voice actor, you're stuck with one impression. It's why it's one of my biggest complaints against Fallout 4. You've got 2 characters. You know, they say you can play evil, but the snarky responses really aren't that much different from the regular responses. So you have the male or the female, and that's really the only thing, whereas when you're putting in your own voice, you could have them have a bit of an accent or sound. You know.
Hell, even Saints Row did that.
Yeah, well, yeah.
They gave you different accents to work with.
Yeah, which is a little better, especially with character customization, but it's one of those things where, you know, people say a silent protagonist has no personality. I counteract with R2-D2.
Huh.
You know, the personality is based on the way other people interpret the way the character's communicating to them.
See,
R2-D2, Chewbacca, Groot. They don't really have a wide range of speech, and yet they have a lot of personality based on how others react to the things they do.
Here's here's my 2 cents on that. FNU actually has a meaning, though, is the thing. Like, the way I pronounce it, and the reason I pronounce it the way I do, has a purpose. And that's the thing. It's all about... that's why I said it's creativity versus artistic direction. Because, have I ever told this on the Gameplay channel? I'm sure I have at some point.
Oh, you never told me.
The idea behind Whatthefnu is, it came from a couple different inspirations. Like, it all started with this bumper sticker I saw once that read, dyslexics have more FNU. But the thing is, I started adding my own personal story to that. It's like, well, FNU is different. Like, loosely translated in dyslexia, it can mean fun, but FNU is different. It's like a euphoria. A FNU-phoria, if you will. It's the kind of, like, you're having a really shitty day. Everything feels like the weight of the world is coming down on your shoulders, and you're done with life. I'm hoping I can be like somebody like, say, I forget who said this. It was a really great quote, too, in describing it, but essentially, somebody was describing on Twitter what it was like to be a celebrity, and the whole idea was, it's like having a superpower. You can make people happy, and all you have to do is show up. I want to be able to do that for people. I want it to be like, well, everything else has gone wrong, but at least Whatthefnu has a video uploaded today. So that'll bring me a little bit of joy. That's the kind of thing I want to do for people, and that's why it's pronounced the way it is. It's sort of a combination of all those different things. And now you know.
Which is meaningful to you, but then I also am reminded of the children's book Frindle.
Yeah, but the difference... Oh, wait, what?
The children's book Frindle?
Frindle. Have not read this.
A kid is learning about how language is built, and starts trying to... And I don't remember what the other plot to go with it was, but the thing that sort of drove it along was he started calling a pen a Frindle. Using the idea of symbols are things we put on things, but words don't really have meaning besides the thing we put them on. And so to you, FNU means that whole euphoric fun based on the dyslexic joke. But for other people, it's just a jumbled mess, or it's a censoring yourself from saying fuck, or it's a sneeze.
Well, that was the other half of it. Like, I thought it was amusing to have a username whose acronym was WTF.
Yeah. But that goes back to the pronunciation thing. You've got a meaning behind it, but the pronunciation doesn't necessarily change the meaning. And again, it's one of those, sometimes it just sounds, but again, like the whole character voices, like I was getting at, besides the being stuck, you've got two personalities in Fallout 4 thing, there's also, sometimes a character just really doesn't sound the way that you imagined them. Japanese Goku, for instance. You know, and it's one of those things that it makes it harder to enjoy the character. You know, the sound of someone's voice can make a big difference whether or not a character is likable or loathed for being irritating to listen to. So not having voices lets you just enjoy the story, and you, as you're reading it, you usually end up putting voices on the characters anyway. At least I know I do, just, you know, when you're reading words...
But here's the thing, if everything worked that way, we would never have animation. Like, if we...
I'm not saying it's a problem, I'm just saying in video games where you have more agency over it...
It feels more personal.
Yeah, I prefer not to have voice acting a lot of the times, especially in like in this game, the voice acting wouldn't be as much of a thing because you're playing as a specific character, but especially when you get to name yourself and have some agency over.
It's the concept of JRPGs versus Western RPGs. It's like, is the adventure centered around you, and everything should be based on your... does everything feel more personal, or is it a story that was crafted for you?
Well, even in crafted stories, there's still a certain degree of, if you name the character, I can feel more connected and maybe make some of the few choices differently depending on how I feel like playing. Do I spend more time helping people or just focus on the quick treasure? Or, even in JRPGs, I get that sometimes, and it's one of those I just like it better personally that way. And again, just because they're not talking doesn't mean they don't have personality. It just means you don't hear what they're saying, just how the world responds to it. And again, voice acting isn't bad. I mean, I was talking about The Killing Joke, which is one of those, going back to imposing voices. If the Joker's not talking, he tends to sound like Mark Hamill. If I'm reading something or whatever,
Yeah.
Same thing, Batman tends to sound like Kevin Conroy because that voice has become so iconic to me in particular. Well, not me in particular, but my generation. Though that is Batman and Joker. And sometimes it's jarring to hear other characters doing those voices a lot of the time,
Huh.
And you died. So fire-breathing snake lizard is apparently too much for a level whatever.
Alright, well then.
I guess that's a call it point.
Yep.
When we come back, we'll be at a save point and pretend none of that happened. Thanks for watching, everybody. I am Hidden in the Truth.
And I'm Whatthefnu.
And we'll see you next video. Bye-bye.
Later.